colleagues, good morning. Some words about our project, about our accelerator. So this is accelerator is running under NPBSF project, which in turn is funded by EU, Russian Federation, and Republic of Finland. So our main task support SMEs, mostly SMEs, startup teams that help them to scale their business, facilitate their business models, and finally work across border and receive funding and investments. Partners of the project is the EOF Institute, the biggest institute in the northeast of Russia, and LUT University from Lapinranta. So our approach is to first of all to launch EOF LUT accelerator is a structure for constant startup training and support. Also, we collaborate toughly with national institutions, both in Russia and Finland. Our approach is select proper projects, make some training to train them to make good pitches, presentations, and finally provide access to investors, business angels, institution that projects could develop successfully. Also, we plan to develop IT tools and platform which can help us to collaborate and provide useful services for startups and teams. Okay, now we start this series of spring workshops. I think you saw it on our website. So we plan 6 workshops, and after in the end of May, we will conduct demo day. Investors, business angels, and other useful experts, people from industry will be invited on this demo day. So, and some of the projects can be invited after completion of educational part. So this event can be very useful for you to receive useful contacts and maybe funding and investments as well. So this is the contacts. I am Dmitry Muzaev from EOF Institute, from LUT University. Our contacts is Professor Erkki Laidaranta and Mika. So thank you for your attention. Let's go to our educational part, and I give the floor to Mika. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dimitri. So my name is Mikko. For those who weren't here in the first minute, I'm from LUT University, and I've been part of this project since the end of last year. And we decided to host these public spring workshops to help startups in both in Russia and in Finland. So it's great to see that we have both nationalities present here, at least. So, and a lot of people right now. But without further blabbering about myself or the project, I will give the floor to Marko Taipale, who is our coach today, and the topic will be customers and feedback. So yes, Marko, I think you are ready, and I will give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, everyone, I guess, or it's going to be afternoon here, or it's afternoon right here in Finland. But anyhow, so my name is Marko Taipale, and I'm sure there's enough information on the website regarding me, but just putting myself in the brief. I'm serial entrepreneur myself, and I'm trying to fix 2 problems in the world right now. One is that what are the things that corporates should be building, and how can they get it done effectively? So I come from a startup background myself, but currently I'm helping corporates do the similar things that the startups do. Anyhow, I've prepared for us a kind of a workshop. I will have like roughly 20 to 30 minute kind of introduction to the topic of customers and customer feedback. And then we will use like most of this time to you actually working your idea and you identifying identify your customer and when working on your business. So let's start with a bit of the introduction to the topic itself. Great. So present this mode doesn't matter. Anyhow, so the topic is customers and customer feedback. And I will start too often the story goes like this. A startup or individual comes up with an idea, they will build it, they will launch it, and then they will get the customer feedback. Basically, the market will tell if this idea was good or bad. And the whole point of this presentation is actually that the story shouldn't go like this. The story should be going in such a way that you get your feedback all the time when you are developing your solution, and you are basically trying to manage the uncertainty that you are building the wrong thing, or even it would be the right thing from the customer's perspective. You can't find the business behind it to back it up. So so that's basically my point, and rest of the presentation and the things that we're gonna do is how to enable that, how to enable you to get customer feedback as early as possible, and you to try to figure out what are the uncertainties that you need to get feedback of. Because at least when I was an entrepreneur myself, there were tons of things that I could be working on. And one of the, let's say, the greatest skill that I think that entrepreneurs will develop themselves is to understand what is important right now. What is the uncertainty that I need to tackle right now? So I think that building a startup is actually about managing the uncertainty. And let me demonstrate this in very simple terms. So if I try to explain what is building a startup to my 6 years old daughter, this is something that I would explain to them. I would say that there needs to be people or businesses who are trying to fix a problem, and they want your help to solve this problem, and they are ready to pay or willing to pay to solve that problem, and you can actually solve it, and you can actually find other customers who have similar problems. So this is what this kind of the path to build a business. And if I highlight what are the uncertainties, when I said that startup building is about managing the uncertainty, there are tons of uncertainties. Like the first uncertainty, for instance, that there are people who are trying to fix a problem and they want your help to solve it. They need to desire your solution, meaning that they need to want it. And that's an uncertainty. Another uncertainty is that even they would like to have your solution, are they actually willing to pay for it? And because as we see, there are a lot of kind of freemium model businesses currently that they create value to the users, but they don't get paid by the users. They get paid by some other means, by some other ways. So, but we need to figure that out. That is partially the desirability uncertainty. So, do they want it? But it's also like a viability. So, is there a business behind it? Then there becomes the next uncertainty, that is feasibility. Can we build it? Can we, and even we can build it, can we build it in such a way that it is a preferred solution? Because most probably there are other solutions on the same opportunity space where you are working on. But that's an uncertainty as well. And probably the final uncertainty is about growth. So which is another viability problem or uncertainty. How can we find other customers or other customer segments or other businesses that this our solution would bring some benefits, that then that would give us growth. And managing these uncertainties, that's all about building a business and building a startup. So if you were thinking that you're building a solution as a startup, that's just one fraction of your problem. And if you take a look at the types of uncertainties, I already mentioned them in a way, but just put them in the kind of one picture. So there's the technology uncertainty. Is it technically possible to build whatever you're doing? And that also includes like legal perspectives and so forth. So there's other feasibilities than technology itself. Like the question, is it legal to do whatever you're doing? Then there's the desirability uncertainties, that does somebody wants it? And as I said, there's the viability question. Can you find the first paying customers? Can you find the growth of customer in terms of customers? And by default, you have none of these. So none of these uncertainties are tackled. And I think it's very important for everyone within their own idea to understand which of the uncertainties are more applicable in your context, because it depends on if you're building a deep tech solution which takes a usage of the latest technologies like blockchain and whatnot, then you probably have some more technology uncertainties than somebody who is actually using very well established technology, but their business context is challenging. So probably they have more challenges on the viabilities side. And I think that we can argue that which of these should come first, because I said that one of the superpowers of the entrepreneurs is to understand where should I focus now. But my claim is that the desirability is one of the first ones that you should be tackling, if not the first. And if I put this in a timeline, or phases, like this phase, that phase, even we know that world is messy and it never goes like so. But one way of illustrating that is that the typical order to tackle the uncertainties is something like this. So you try to find a problem that is worth of solving. Of course, initially you have an idea that you want to build, right? That's that you need to have that desire to build your own solution, and that drives you as an entrepreneur. But eventually you need to find a problem that your solution actually solves. So you need to kind of find the problem solution fit. After that, once you have found a customer who has the problem that your solution is fitting to, then comes the product market fit, which basically means that you start productizing your solution and you try to understand what's the market of it. And then finally scaling up. And even I said that this is like a stage, there are kind of stages, but the world is messy. So that's the red drawing there, that the reality goes like you study a bit of the market while you're actually building the solution to a problem that you are figuring out. So you're doing those in parallel in a way. But so that you have, at least for me, this has helped me to understand, okay, where are we? Why do we talk about scaling? Because we don't even have the first customers paying yet. And going through this, it's a kind of iterative thing. Some of you might have heard the lean startup, the build, measure, learn loop. So no matter what is your approach to it, you're kind of de-risking and getting rid of the uncertainties as we go along. One of the exercises we're going to do later today is a confidence assessment. I have a separate working space where we're going to work on this, and this is one of the exercises that I am going to ask you to do, is to assess your regarding your team's idea, whatever you're working on. Do you have some evidence of the desirability, feasibility, or viability of your business? And how do you feel about it? Because this might help you to focus on the uncertainties that are relevant to you. So if you're working with the uncertainties, one of the key feedback mechanisms, of course, are customers, because they will help us to understand if we are on the right track. And one of the challenges with the customers is, since they are people, most probably, even you are B2B, so you're selling to a business, eventually it's all about the people. And all the people have opinions, and then they have their real behaviors. And I think this is a very important distinction, because if you ask for instance, me, that, okay, do you care about yourself, like your well-being? I say, yes, I do. Well, how many times per week I will go to a gym or do an exercise, like physical exercise? How many times per week I do that? I might answer you like 3 to 5 times per week. But that's my opinion. You should dig deeper and see what is my actual behavior. So if you would observe me a week, you would see that I will be exercising like once a week. That's my real behavior. And some of these behaviors, or many of those, are unconscious. So it's not that I'm lying. I just don't know that I'm lying, because I'm not observing myself like every week doing that. And taking a real life example of a business building and looking at the opinions and behaviors. So this is a story from GE building a new scanner. So this scanner is used for children, and the challenge with this scanner is not technical. So this scanner is capable of scanning a lot of different medical information. And of course, GE, when they were building this, the next generation of this, they thought that probably the problems are not technical anymore, or uncertainties of this business to grow are not actually involved to the technical aspects of the product. So they went and observed what happens in the real life on these when this is actually in real life usage in the hospitals. And one of the key observations that they saw was that the children were like very they had high anxiety when they were on the corridor waiting for their turn to come to this device, because it's very stressful for the kids, and actually it's a business problem as well. These kids are because it takes a long time to make sure that the kid is in the right position and they don't move, because you don't want them to be moving when you're taking the image with the scanner. And they realized that the big business problem here is that it takes so long time, and this is very expensive equipment. So the utilization rate of this equipment is dependent on how long it takes to scan one kid at a time. So they wanted to shorten that time to create more business value to the hospitals, meaning that they can scan more children. Of course, then they asked the actual hospital staff that would they be willing to help to solve this problem. They said that, yeah, we are. So they said their opinion was yes. And then this team asked the hospital people to dress up with these fancy pirate costumes. And they realized that they were not that that eager to do that. So they found out that the behavior is a bit lagging. So they had to find some hospitals that are where the staff is willing to do this experiment with them to understand and get to understand if changing this experience of the kid going through the scanner actually helps cutting down the time of scanning. And eventually they found some real hospital staff, like in this picture. And they created a kind of a mock-up of it's using just the same technology piece, but just they created an experiment where they tried to bring kids to this, and they saw that how long it takes to scan the actual kids with the scanner. And of course, it dropped quite tremendously the time spent in the actual scanner, because the kids were like, okay, this is an adventure. This is not anymore like a medical diagnosis of your whatever is your condition, but this is like this is an adventure. So okay, so this is a kind of a illustration of the, first of all, the behavior change of the hospital staff. They said that they are willing to help, but when we asked them to actually put these costumes on, we realized that they are not that eager to help. So you need to go to that behavioral level. And another thing that we figured out, that if we wouldn't have gone to the field and observed what are the problems of our customers, we never had figured out when we were building that next generation of the scanner, that it's not the technical new feature that we need to implement to the scanner itself, but the actual value is on the experience side. And then we started building on that experience and figuring out how can we shorten the time spent in the scanner and use that having a higher revenue, because then we changed the business model as well to include this experience into the business model. But that's a different story. So the learning from this story is to go to the context and ask for your customers to behave differently. And then you will learn much more than we ever had probably done within our own, inside our own building. It's also important when you're looking for your customer feedback for your uncertainties, that you understand, are you trying to gain new understanding, or are you trying to validate your assumption? Because if you're just asking customer, do you buy this, whatever you have, you're basically trying to just to validate, okay, is this valuable to the customer? But if you want to really, if you're not about to validate, but you want to understand, then you ask your customer, okay, tell me about your problems that you have when you're scanning the kids, for instance, or when you have this scanner in use, and then your customer tells you that, well, our problem is that it takes a long time, and we need to put relaxants on the kids, so we need to inject them, and it is kind of, that's the pain. So if we have asked them that, would you like to buy the next generation of the scanner, we probably never had heard them to tell us that, hey, the problem is actually the kids takes a long time to scan. So, and that's why make sure that you understand first before you start validating. Another kind of a story that then helps us to understand how can we formulate those uncertainties as kind of experiments to the customers. This is a real startup in the United States, and their idea was that they have this drone, and it takes pictures of those fields, and then uses weather data and soil data, so data from the ground, to kind of analyze what should be done next to this field in order to have better outcomes. So more vegetables, more whatever is actually growing on that field. So this was their idea. So let's combine the data with these imaginary or images, and let's create analysis, and let's sell that analysis to these farmers or these huge field owners that, hey, this is what you should be doing. And they thought about this idea. They had nothing basically in the very beginning. And they thought that, okay, we have quite high technology uncertainties. Because can we build the drone? Can we have them all driving instead of like humans driving those drones? Should there be like autonomous drones who are just circulating the field? Can we have the data from the soil? Can we trust the data from the soil? So the ground and the imaginary, can we combine the data in such a way that it gives us actually something actionable, so that it can be really lead to better outcomes, better outcomes in terms of growing the plants themselves. But they realized that the biggest uncertainty is not actually technological. The biggest uncertainty for getting business out of this ever is the question, does the farmer actually change their behavior? So if we take the report and tell that to the farmer, will the farmer act on that report? Because that means that the farmer sees value in this report and they act on it. And when they act on it, they will actually buy the next report and the next report and the next report. So to set up an experiment to find out if there's value in this report, no matter if you have the drones and so forth, the real experiment that they did was they did a fake report. So it was totally faked. It had just Google images, the satellite images of that field. And then they had like fake report telling that you in next 24 hours, you should be doing these things in order to have better outcomes from your field. And then they set up cameras on the field to observe if the farmer goes and does something. So, and to set up that experiment took them like a week without building any technology, without building anything new. And the outcomes for that experiment were very interesting in terms that what is actually valuable and how can they get the farmers to act differently. Because once they did that experiment, they found out that not all the farmers took action. So imagine them building all these capabilities, the technology, the drones and the data mining from the soil and all that, and then learning that the customers don't actually take the action. So that's the learning from the story. And in very simple terms, we can kind of plan and do these experiments like so. So I have here an example of a kind of a template that you can use in order to formulate your assumption. And let me just take the real example. So this is the previous farmer experiment. So this is a way of kind of describing what we believe in and the experiment and the metric and the success criteria for the experiment. So this is the experimentation design tool in a way. So they say that we believe that the farmers are willing to change their behavior if we provide them better information. To test this assumption, we will create fake report on their plantation and with next best action within 24 hours and ask their data to improve the report. So that's what they did as well. The metric is that how many farmers will act on the recommendations. And the success criteria is that 5 out of 10 test subjects do act on the report, and 80% of them test subjects will provide their data to improve the model. The reason that they wanted to the data from the farmers, because they knew that they can't ask money upfront, and it wouldn't be even ethical, like business ethical. So they thought that they want to have some exchange of value. And one exchange of value is, for instance, data. So if I give you this, will you give you whatever you have? And that behavior would be a demonstration of value exchange, meaning that they value whatever we are giving so that they take the effort to give something that they have. And that's an important thing when you're thinking about the customer feedback. Once again, you don't want their opinions, you want their behavior, and this is looking for that behavior. It's the same thing that, just put it into some different context. If you have a business meeting with your customer, like potential customer, and they said that, yeah, this is a very interesting idea, please continue with this idea, whatever you're doing. That's an opinion. If you want their behavior, I would ask them, okay, we will continue with this, and we want to set up the next meeting with you, like, let's say 2 weeks from here. We want to show you our results, what we've learned. So next, and could you actually bring your colleague to that meeting as well? And then I come up with some reason, like, let's say that maybe they have different insights, or maybe your colleague, it would be beneficial for us to see and give more feedback from you. And even it's a small ask, please bring your colleague. But the thing is that they need to change their behavior once again. They need to believe your thing, your idea, in such strong that they take their own face value and ask somebody else to come into the meeting, spending their time. So that's the exchange of value. So you can do this in very, very small scale. You don't need to set up like a farmer experiment to do this. But just thinking that through, that how can we make sure that we don't get opinions, but we get the behavior? That's really valuable when you're looking for customer feedback for your uncertainties that you're tackling. Okay, and once again, once you've done your analysis of where you have uncertainties, you can then use this experimentation card to define an experiment to tackle the uncertainty that you have. So for my drone example, the uncertainty was that, does the farmer change their behavior if we give them the report? And they need to change that behavior for us to create business, because if they don't change their behavior, they won't buy the reports from us. And then they started thinking about, okay, how can we test that assumption? How we can test that that the farmer sees value in our report. So that's how they did it. And this is one of the exercises that you have a chance to do today, later on. Going to the last bit. Sometimes, or I think that when we are talking with the customers early on, it might be very difficult for your customer to understand what is the value proposition that you're proposing to them. And I think this is a key part of any of your pitch. If you're pitching to your investors, if you're pitching to your customers, whoever you're pitching, just be very clear on what is your value proposition. Next coaching session, I saw that you have a business model. Business model is a topic, so I won't go to the business model. I'm just saying that this is a part of the business model. So So the value proposition is part of it. It's right in the middle. I think it's important us to acknowledge that the customers do not buy the products or services. They are not really keen on buying anything new in just for the sake of it. They are actually buying solutions to their problems and or opportunities that they see. So we need to, if you want to formulate a good value proposition, you need to talk in your customer's language about their problems, about their benefits that they're looking for. So if you're just gonna pitch your solution without connecting to the customer's problems, it's hard sell. So the value proposition consists of two parts. The first part, or the most important part, probably is the customer itself. So that's the circle or bubble. So it's your customer profile, and you should build your customer profile based on insights. So of course it is first hypothetical, because before you have discussed or observed any of your customers, you don't actually have any real customer profile. But of course you can still define it kind of ideally. This would be an ideal customer for us. The actual customer profile consists of three parts, and it's kind of simple in a template in a way. That the first part, or the most important part, is what is the customer job to be done. So put it in layman terms, what do they want to achieve? What is the thing that they want to get done? Then the 1/3 of the puzzle is that what are the current pain points of getting that done? Whatever it is, what are the pain points? And this is where you need your customer feedback, because maybe you think that their pain points are these and these and these, but in my scanner example, the pain points were not visible for us. Before we went to the actual hospitals to see what's the pain point of scanning. The pain point of scanning is not about the scanner itself. And then the third part is that what are the seeked gains? So what do you think, what the customer is expecting to gain in short and long term? Then comes to your solution. So how do you solve these needs? And this is typically easier to describe, because this is what you've been most probably doing most of your time, your solution, right? So the first part of this is that what is your solution? So describe in basically what are the kind of key features or key capabilities that your solution has. Describe how it removes the pain points and how it enables the gains, how it enables the customer get the gains, whatever they are looking for. And of course, when you've described this is an interaction. So to map these two, they need to talk the same language in a way. And that's one of the exercises that we're going to do later on to help you to map these. And the nice part of this is that you can create a preliminary pitch already with this. So when you have your value proposition built, you can just formulate into the sentence in a way that the solution, which is that part of that canvas, helps end user segment, which is the whole bubble, your customer, who wants to get job done, problem solved, which is that part of the puzzle, by pains and gains, unlike competing solution, probably a solution that is already existing in the marketplace, or a solution that if there's no solution, then whatever the customer is doing right now. And just to give you a real life example of this is that, for instance, if you describe the Uber value proposition, it will be that the Uber helps travelers, which is their customers, who wants to get from place A to B That's the job to be done. By removing the need for cash, that's one of the pains that you have with the regular taxis. And being 30% cheaper, that's the gain from the customer point of view, unlike traditional taxi services, so existing solution. Okay, that's a kind of clumsy pitch. But actually, if you look at their pitch, it has pretty much the same elements. Uber invents taxi. It matches that your nearby driver to take you wherever you want to go from A to B. No need for cash or local credit cards, and it's cheaper. Great. This is. I have this as an exercise template later on that you can fiddle in, but this is probably something that we don't probably have time to, or depends on where you want to use your time. But this is just a writing exercise that you can do later on with the help of these templates that I've provided. And that's the end of my presentation part. So the folks who are want to continue with me for rest of this session, what we're going to do next is that I'm going to walk you through the exercises. And then once I walk you through the exercises, we will put you in the breakout rooms where you can work on these different aspects. And I will be available for help or coaching anything regarding any of these things or anything else you want to ask from me. I'm happy to help you. So I will just show you the exercise templates. So I have prepared us a Miro board. Which is, if you're not familiar with the tool, it's kind of a shared whiteboard for everyone. I generated this board a team area for each team. So there's like 15 or so templates or these areas. And then I've done an example so that since you don't have the slides right now, you can just go to the examples and look at those when you're lost. On each team area, or let's start from the beginning. So when you come to Miro, in the left hand corner, down corner, there's the frames. So you get this kind of a view. There's team 1, team 2, team 3, and so forth. So there's team templates. So you go to the one that we use we can use the breakout rooms in terms of like, okay, then you know which team you're part of. For each team, we have these templates like so, and the first exercise is to do the confidence voting. So basically, I have here these bubbles. So I'm asking you to actually rate yourself that how you feel about your idea. That okay. For instance, I'm saying here that desirability means that the customer wants our solution. We have some preliminary evidence of that, but we haven't really studied that. So we haven't run any experiments on that yet. Feasibility, well, that's very clear, and viability, like so. So this is for you just to if you are multiple people, then you can discuss within your team that, hey, how do you see this? And then come up with the uncertainties, because then if I would see this profile, I would tell you that, hey, this is something that you want to probably check, and this is something that you want to check next. Here you're good. And if everything is here, then I'm just saying that start from the desirability. So that's the first exercise. And it should be just take you a few minutes to do that. The next exercise is assumption mapping. So based on the previous one here, if we feel that the desirability is a problem for us, or kind of uncertainty, then I would just write here. And if I would be the farmer team, I said the farmer change behavior. So this is my drone example, and then I see that it's high impact, and it's probably it's not low effort. Well, it's kind of in the middle there. So this is a tool for you to do your assumption mapping, that whatever are your assumptions, you can lay them here. And once you have done your assumption mapping, you can start formulating an experiment to it. So let's say that I take this example, I start thinking that, okay, so that's our assumption. We believe that farmer changes behavior, and so and so. And I have the example. So then you start looking at your experiments. And the idea here is the reason why you're doing this is that I want to help you to figure out where's your uncertainties, what is the next assumption that you should be working on, and what is the next experiment that you could actually do. So those are the first 3 steps, and I would give you, let's work on that first. Let's do the value proposition later if you feel that we want to go there. I want to help you piece by piece. So I would give you half an hour to do these 3 first steps. So let's see where you get to. And I will put here a timer that you will see when the half an hour is over. And after half an hour, we can close the breakout rooms and come together and see where we are at. That's fine. Then let's see that, or actually, don't come to the. So let's formulate again. For half an hour work on that, I will check every team after half an hour. You keep on continuing working. Then the next part is the value proposition part. There's an example, and I will give you instructions when you are there for each team. So we will work on these breakout rooms till the end of the session, which I think that we are now 1.5 hours left. So I would say that after an hour, let's see where we are at. So you have 1 hour to do as far as you can get. I will share the mirror link in the chat, so you get to the actual board. And if you wanna, then we're gonna divide you in the teams themselves, so that you get to the right board. You could actually just do small. So take one of these post-its here and just put your name there, so that somebody knows that, okay, this is your board, so they can move to the next one and next one and next one. So if there's a hassle regarding that, let's see. Okay, so let's break out the rooms once I have shared the mirror link. Wait a sec. Gonna board link. And I put it in the. So now you can click the mirror link. Let's see that you get to the board before we change. Okay, I see people coming in. Great. So mouse scrolling back, you get zoom out, and mouse scrolling in, you get zooming in. Okay. And as you see, you're all anonymous here, most probably. So, okay, and you started already putting your names in. Great. So let's start splitting into the breakout rooms and let the people to work on their stuff.
Okay, I have made the breakout rooms. I counted 14 different teams.
Okay, let's see if you have enough mirror boards for that.
Yeah, and if you see that you're in the wrong room,
yeah.
then send a message to the chat. But I enable that you can join any room that you see is your right team. So you can do that by yourself as well. And I think if you had any questions, I think you can send them to the chat, and Marko will come.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
will
right?
come.
Okay. Yes. All right. I will divide you all over.
Generally speaking, all of you who did the exercise kind of it felt that you understood the self-assessment, well, the tool or the thinking. One interesting highlight that I got, not sure if it was from this team, but it doesn't matter, was that they asked me that what is this grading about? So does 5 mean that I need to have full-blown prototype of my idea? Or what does it mean? What 5 means here? And my response to that was that it depends on what is the thing that you're building, and also like on the where you are with your idea. Just giving an example, if you are like let's say a kind of a web startup, so you're purely digital, you are and especially if you're in consumer business, you get faster feedback, and the time to test something with your real kind of prototype is much faster than something if you're building some hardware. So that's why putting everybody on the same scale, like, or saying that, hey, 5 means this for everyone, it doesn't make too much sense. So it's contextual. And I found this good tool if you're a team of or group of people. Later on, one exercise you probably can do, or that I've done at least with my own startup teams, is that I've asked everybody to fill in this individually. So I do this, I put desirability there, and my colleague puts desirability on there, and then so how do we feel? And if the interesting part is not that is it what's 5 and what's 3. The more interesting thing is that if somebody else in my team thinks that we are 5 and I think that we are 3, because it tells the difference. And then we can argue that, hey, no, that why do I feel that we don't have enough evidence of, let's say, for instance, customers buying our solution, or if he feels that, hey, this is definitely the case, we have proof that we don't have to anymore do trial sales, for instance. So that's the use of this tool, also in team context. Another thing that I saw many of you, probably most of the struggle were about assumption mapping. And it's not surprising, because it is very vague, or kind of hazy term. What the heck is assumption? And it's also like it's a bridge between what do we think we know, and what do we think that we don't know, and how do we frame that into a sentence. So it's a kind of hard thing to think about. So a couple of tips there. One is that, and it was a really good question from one of you asking that, should we put here like generic assumption, like a generic assumption that, hey, I can't recall now the example, but let's say that a generic assumption that, hey, customers prefer this type of solution. Or should we put like more specific assumptions, saying that customer prefers in this solution these type of parameters? It needs to be this and this and this. Which type of assumption I should put here? My response to that was that you put both, because you want to track the whole big picture. You want to track that, okay, are we testing that? Do people like generically this solution that we are doing. But you also want to do the parameter level assumptions because you want to test them fast and maybe independently. Because testing the big thing, do the customer like the whole thing? It's thing that you're gonna test next month. So that's why it's good to map both assumption on the high level, high abstraction level, and the more detailed level, because those more detailed level are probably low effort to do. There were also questions about axis, low effort. What does it mean? I said, well, basically it means that how much effort you need to do in order to test that assumption. So, and there I would like to use the scale of like scale of 3 in a way. I would like to have some experiments that can or assumptions that can be tested in 15 minutes. There were at least 2 or 3 teams that I asked them that, hey, can you just take a phone and call them? You don't need to have a survey. You don't need to build a survey. You can just call them and ask them. You don't need to do like great market study. I mean, that's fine. You can do it later. But if this is your first contact with your customer, just take a phone call with the customer and ask them personally, because then you know what type of survey makes sense. If you're just gonna survey without having any contact with your customer, you're probably asking a lot of things that are self-evident with the 15 minutes call. So that's one experiment category, the 15-minute category. The next category is kind of one week category. So when the experiment takes few days, a week max. So think about how can we test this assumption in a week? And then there's the big time frame, like months experiment. And I see some of you also struggling with that. That okay, like I help them by asking, do you really need to build this in order to test that? And asking the question, can you do this in 15 minutes? What is the 15-minute answer? Is there any? I know that we as a human, we want to kind of build the because it's embarrassing to test something. It's always embarrassing. So we rather tinker the solution before we show it to the customers. But it's not serving us nor the customer to keep that, to do that. It's much better that we test early and often, and kind of, it's okay to feel embarrassed. And I'm saying this as a person who had very much difficulty in the very beginning to do that, to set myself to the level of embarrassment that I had. So that's about the assumption mapping. So if I wrap it, so think about big assumptions and smaller detailed, more detailed assumptions. And the reason is to have the big picture, but also like test something fast. And think about the time frame of the experimentation, that 15-minute, 1 week, a month type of approach. The actual experiments then, filling in this was also a bit of hurdle, how to do that. I'm just wondering if I highlight somewhere. Sure, which of the teams I help with that. So if I can dig deeper, there's something. Okay, interesting. Okay, I didn't spar this, but this is good. So here the assumption is that multisensory gas analytics chips are desired by the manufacturers of gas, blah, 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 and so forth. At this stage, when you're writing this assumption down, once you have written it down, it's good to ask yourself, so what are we learning if we test this? And I hear here that what we are learning is that, so do they want this or not? And the experiment is provide our Ensor chips prototypes to a set of companies working on the development of gas analytics. Okay, so given that this team has the prototypes on the shelf. It sounds like a fast experiment to do. Maybe even faster would be asking the 15-minute version would be that, hey, ask the companies if they would like to do the trial, and ask them that could they return the trial results in, I don't know, in a week. How many companies will give us technical requirements? That's a good metric. How many companies will actually perform measurements and give us feedback? Yeah, that's also a good one. Exactly. So what you're looking for is that this is now value exchange, at least the second part. So you're looking for value exchange. You're not asking for money, but you're asking for their time to give feedback. Time is sometimes more valuable than money for customers. So it's always good to think about how can we get evidence of that behavior. The success criteria: more than 3 companies kill. Yeah, that's fine. 2 or more companies will actually perform measurements and give. Yes, right. Okay, that's a good one. That's fine, and I think it's also like demonstrates the level of that in one experiment you can do actually 2 levels of testing in a way that, okay, will they actually are they willing to do the trial, or at least say that they do the trial, and then the second level is that, okay, will they actually do it? Good job, whoever was doing this. Okay. Any questions from those 3 exercises? Because before I go to the value proposition, there were some of those themes as well. And you want to ask or comment?
Oh, I wanted to ask from your presentation and farmer experiment. What was the solution, the final solution after the experiment? After they found that not everyone would act on the reports.
Right. So they realized, so to put the long story short, it wasn't a drone. So they realized that the farmer, first of all, those big farmers, they have a lot of analytics of their fields already. They don't actually need that much of extra help on the existing analytics. So, but what they ended up doing was that they did a kind of soil sensor. So they did a hardware piece, but it was a pure soil sensor. So farmers said that they have a lot of historical data, but they would like to have predictable data. So which would help them to predict what's going on. So, and they had the weather data, because that's the prediction data that you have. Everybody can check the weather today. I know you can check the forecasts. But the problem was that they didn't know what's the impact of that weather to their soil, because they didn't know what's going on with their soil. So that was the outcome of it. So they ended up doing a soil analysis, both the service and the hardware piece. And that was what was the business about. The drones went away. They flew, they fly, you know, they went out the window, so to speak, or out from the picture. Yeah, that was, so they pivoted a couple of times.
Thanks.
But and imagine the investment that they have done, or they would have done, if they wouldn't talk to the farmers early on and found out that, because one of the farmers could actually tell them from their analytics, this is fake, this is not true. So they got caught that this is a fake report. But of course, by doing that experiment, they wouldn't otherwise know that, okay, they actually know this stuff already. So then having better conversation about this, okay, what's the piece that you don't know? Then they said, well, the soil. Or yeah, I can go, and they had the measures, they did manual checks every now and then, what's going on with the field. They wanted to automate, of course. That. Okay, good question. Everybody always wants to know about that. Actually, whenever I present it, that, okay, what happened to that? Fine. Let's look at a bit of the value props. let's look at this same folks here, since you're getting all the spotlight. Okay, one of the mistakes that people typically do with the value proposition is that they start with the solution first, and then they start thinking about, okay, who could be the customer who would like to have this. So please start from the customer first. Here I don't know which happened first, so I can't comment on that. What is good here is that they have named what's the customer profile. One of the challenges that I at least had with one of the teams on the right before we came together was that they had put all the different customer profiles into one, and it's hard. So for instance, they had teachers, they had influencers, so they had some idea which is consist of they want to help teachers, but the influencers like bloggers and some are somehow related to the idea that they're having. So create a profile teacher and think about what are their job to be done, their gains, their pains, because they are probably different than the influencers' pains, gains, and their job to be done. The influencer wants to influence other people. Teacher wants to teach other people. They have different job to be done, and they have probably different pains and gains. Then again, by mapping those, you can actually see that, hey, our solution could actually work also for that customer segment. What else? One thing that is also good to remember when you're doing this exercise is that you don't need to tackle all the pains. It's fine that you don't tackle all the pains. Because if you think about pitching it to the customer, if the customer is hearing your pitch and they're saying that, okay, how about that and that and that and that, and if you say, yeah, we can do also that and that and that and that, you are not very credible, because you sound like you have a solution for everything. So it's fine that you can't tackle all the pains. It's fine also to leave something out, but just to be clear about it. Okay, this is something this is where we focus on. This is where we are going to be the best. Because if you're trying to solve all the problems, you're jack of all trades, but you're master of none. It's fun. They actually managed to do the pitch as well, in a way. The multi-stream inventory tip helps producers of gas analyzer who wants to develop new monitorized and outperforming devices by, okay, well, they have the pains in there. Okay, that's what. So great. So with all this, if you do this later on, if you didn't manage to do this time frame, I didn't even expect everybody to do all of this. But if you manage to do some bit of this, I hope that you have some tangible experiments either defined or in mind that you can do. And one thing that you can do later on, I'm not sure if you're going to have a coaching session about pitching. At least I heard in the very beginning that some part is helping you to pitch and create better pitches and so forth. At least you have a bit of the tool to also to check your pitch that, okay, is the value proposition as part of your pitch? Is it visible? Do we talk about who are our customers? What are the pains they are having? And how we are solving that. Any comments or questions regarding the value proposition part? If not, I think we're done. This is what I had in mind for you guys. Talking about the customers and gaining customer feedback, gaining customer insight as part of your road to success with whatever you're doing, and thinking of the different aspects of your idea. So I'm happy that I got all of you to participate in this, and I hope this was useful for you, and you found a way to use anything that was provided to your context. Thanks.
Is it possible to save this Miro link, as in they can return to it?
Yeah, the Miro board is there, and I'm not gonna close the sharing option, so you can go back to this board. That's fine. Let's say that let's make a deal in such a way that after 1 month, I'm not guaranteeing that it's there. So you have 1 month to move whatever is here to somewhere else you want to use it. But at least I'm gonna keep it open for 1 month, and I'm gonna note it in such a way that nobody else removes the board there. So you can come back to here but these are rather simple things. You can just use pen and paper or some even PowerPoints to do all these exercises. But I just wanted to have a higher interaction tool and the way to see everybody working at the same time. So that's why we were using Miro here. So for a month, it's open there.
Thanks a lot. That was super helpful. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thank you for interacting. Thank you for asking the questions. That's why.
Great workshop. Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, on my behalf, thank you so much, Marko, and thank you for the participants for actively participating. That's always desired on our part.
Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
This was the first workshop, and I think it's a good start for all of this, because this is a continuous kind of learning thing that you do with your business. So next one is the business model workshop. It's on Thursday at 1 p.m. So 13 to 15. And I will put the link to the calendar into the chat right now. So I would like you to click on that and then add it to your Gmail account so that you can track the whole workshop process more easily. And the link is always there. It's the same link. Yeah, on top of that, nothing else comes into my mind. Thank you on behalf of EOFLUT Accelerator. Thank you, Marko, once again. And yeah, I think I hope I will see you on Thursday then.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's wrap it up.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, goodbye.